Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Movie Critic Rob here with the Movie Channel, and today we are reviewing the newest film by Ridley Scott in the Alien Prometheus pantheon, known as Alien Covenant, which is working our way towards the Alien movie, which came out in, I think, 1979. I actually own Prometheus. I have a steelbook of Prometheus. It's fantastic looking. And I just recently got this because I needed to, even though it's after what's going on in Covenant, I still wanted to brush up. I love the Alien movies. I've been a fan of the Alien movies since I owned them on VHS. I actually own the VHSs of Alien and Aliens, and I thought, okay, I need to watch Alien Covenant. I know what happens in Prometheus, so I didn't really brush up. And I may, just as a celebratory thing, do a review of all 4 of the Alien movies and Prometheus, but we'll see. And I may even do the Alien vs. Predators, because I've got those too. So let's talk about Alien Covenant. Now, the background of this movie is directed by Ridley Scott, who directed the original Alien, and also directed Prometheus, which came out to mixed praise and panning by way of critics. I actually really enjoyed it, but I knew there was a larger story there, partially because I knew it was connected to Alien, so I gave it a little bit more slack than most people. But this movie takes place, I want to say, about it's 10 years after the events in Prometheus, and we are now with the crew of the Covenant, which is a colonization crew, and they have a mishap in space and pick up a stray transmission, which starts them on the journey that we see in this movie. And of course, alien violence ensues. This will be no spoilers for the beginning half. First 5 minutes are spoiler free, and then after that, I'm going to give you a few minutes, or actually not a few minutes, a few seconds to get out, and I will start the spoilers. Don't fret, you're not going to hear any reviews, and I will let you know, or any spoilers. I will let you know when the spoilers start. So the positives of this movie, I really, really love that, again, unlike with Prometheus, this one really embraced its horror roots that Alien had, especially. And I really appreciated the characterizations of everybody that was there and how they tried to tie it into Prometheus. I believe they succeeded in tying it to Prometheus. And we all know it's going to lead to the first Alien and then Nostromo coming a few decades later. I think decades or 100 years later. I can't remember exactly where the timeline is at this point. But I think it does everything well. One of the positives of the story for me was the fact that you had 2 androids in the movie, David and Walter. And that's not really a spoiler. There's 2 androids in the movie that you're going to see, David and Walter. And I honestly, I got a little worried when I first saw the 2, because I'm like, this could get really difficult to track who's who. But Fassbender, my word, pulls it off to where you know exactly who you're looking at and who you're talking to every second of the movie, and it doesn't get lost. They actually had a conversation, the 2 synthetics together, and you never really lose track of who's who, and I was so happy with that. All of the characters are good, and of course, you know, most of them are there to die, so you don't really connect with a lot of them, and I guess that's kind of a weakness, because unlike with Alien, you really connected with everybody, and with Aliens, the sequel, you really did connect with everybody, and you knew they were going to die, but it was because you knew them and you were invested in them that you just really, really wanted to see them, you know, like, survive. And but in this case, I found myself rooting for the aliens. I'm like, just kill them already. We all know you're going to do it. Just kill them already. And I don't know. I think that really is a negative, because the only one that really got developed were the 2 synthetics, and other than that, everybody else just kind of got thrown to the wayside. They had some great actors, because you had Danny McBride, you had Billy Crudup. I think it's Billy Crudup. I can't remember. I know his last name's Crudup, and he played Dr. Manhattan in Watchmen, but I can't remember exactly who it is. The negatives of this movie really just have to do with the characters, the framing and everything. The music I thought was absolutely enchanting. But really, when it came down to it, the characters were kind of weak, especially when you know the predecessors. Even in Prometheus, I thought the characters were a lot stronger, because I remember the names, Elizabeth Shaw and David, who is back in this movie. And you might even see some others from Prometheus, but I'm not going to say yes or no. Anyway, final thoughts. I really think this was an improvement on Prometheus. Not that Prometheus was a bad movie by any means. I loved it. But it was really more in the vein of Alien. It was much more of a horror movie, which I really enjoyed and I really appreciated. And I think Ridley Scott's back in the game. I think he had a few years where he stumbled as a director. Robin Hood was okay. It was good, but it wasn't as good as his prior entries. I especially love movies like Kingdom of Heaven and Gladiator, and Alien, of course. And I think that he's kind of gotten back into form with Alien Covenant. He really came back into his own and made an amazing movie, which one thing I want to say before I go into the spoilers. The movie, I had a hard time pinning down the actual protagonist in the movie. And towards the middle, I started to get bored because the plot meandered a little bit. But then the last 20 minutes of the movie happened, which I'm going to be talking about in depth in a few minutes. And the movie became 1,000 times better. And now I'm going to switch over to the spoiler part of the film. In short, final thoughts are, for my non-spoiler part, you should see this movie. Definitely go check it out, especially if you're a fan of Alien or Prometheus. You really only need to watch Prometheus to know all the ins and outs, but even if you don't watch any, you'd still be able to understand this movie pretty well, and you are going to be invested in everything that happens. So now I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to scurry away like the Xenomorphs and Neomorphs of the movie before we kick it into high gear with some spoilers, because there are a ton of spoilers here that I want to unpack. Now, I'm buying some time here for you guys, but I'm going to assume that if you're here, then you are now ready for some spoilers. So, let's kick it into high gear with some spoilers. So the movie starts out with this crew going to this planet whose name escapes me because the name of the planet is really inconsequential. And a lightning storm happens in space. A lightning storm in space. We are in Star Trek. Never mind. Some of you will get that. And they pick up a distress signal from what we learn is the planet of the engineers, which, if you remember, David, who was only a head, and Elizabeth Shaw were traveling to after the events of Prometheus. And, wouldn't you know, David is there. Shaw's not there, but David is there. And you realize that something is off. People start to get infected, and the infections are fantastic. It's different than the original Alien infections because we're not there at Xenomorph yet. We're building there. And the first thing we see in the movie are Neomorphs, which are like these white versions of the Xenomorphs that are tinier, much more rabid. They are the design of the Xenomorph with the energy of a face hugger. Because they're scurrying about, and I mean, these things were deadly. They had some scenes that you knew this was a horror movie, and it was amazing because you had the alien going at people's faces and eating faces, and it was kind of like, oh my gosh, this is like face huggers, but it's not. It's a little alien thing, but it's not an alien. It's so good. And that's one of the things about this movie was the action in this movie is absolutely incredible. The action and the horror aesthetic where you don't know what's going to happen next was really good. You see two people get infected right off the bat, and you're like, oh boy. But it's not the regular alien infection. You don't really see that till the end of the movie. And so you're thinking, uh-oh, pathogen, bad, because you saw in Prometheus where Walter stuck the little goo in the cup and infected Dr. Holloway, which was the husband of Elizabeth Shaw. And you get all the mayhem that ensues. So you know something's going down. These things go up this guy's nose. One goes, the other guy gets it in his ear, and you're like, oh boy. And what happens is an amazing sequence that tops the original face hugger thing in Alien, where the thing is coming out of the guy's back, and the dude, it was so gruesome and bloody. And just amazing to watch it because it's like it's fresh, it's new, it's a new take on it, and it's a new creature that's coming out of him, and you get birth to the Neomorph, and then you notice that David's motives may not be as friendly as you think, and they're not bad motives. They're just, I think that where David's character is in the movie, he just wants to emulate his creators, Mr. Wayland, who really, David was the son of Wayland in a way, and since he was the first synthetic, he was the son of Wayland. He's the perfect blend of man and machine. And I love that the movie, one of the things I loved about the movie was that it had a central theme, which was the theme of creation. One of the characters actually asks, or I think David was the one that actually asks one of the crew members of the Covenant, what do you believe? And I believe that the guy was a Christian because they had mentioned it before, and he says, I believe in creation. And David creates, but not like the Bible. And it was an amazing movie. So then you figure out that David has actually been experimenting on the xenobiology on the planet, and you realize that you're actually in paradise. You're in the homeworld of the engineers, and you get to see through flashbacks exactly what happened to the engineers, because at first you just see statues like in weird poses in this monolith garden thing, and it's like, okay, so what happened here? You get to see that, and you get to see a huge colony of these engineers who basically all get infected with this virus, and they just turn into basically like figures of themselves. They just kind of freeze in place. So I don't really know what's happening there. I think obviously it's a precursor to what we saw in Prometheus and the virus actually being weaponized and making other creatures, which leads into the Xenomorph. But David is the one that actually creates the Xenomorphs in Alien Covenant. He takes it from the Neomorph stage and makes the very first Xenomorph. He makes the first egg that hatches the first facehugger, and the captain of the ship is the first victim of the facehuggers. And the aliens look ridiculous. The Xenomorph looks ridiculous. I mean, the Neomorph looked amazing, don't get me wrong, but the alien looks ridiculous. They actually had a moment where the alien stands up and, like, David is trying to teach him to move his hand, and he's just standing there and on top of this guy's chest. And I'm like, oh my god, that's so creepy, but it's so cute. And it's like, oh. And then the last 20 minutes happen. You get a bunch of, action everywhere where the Xenomorph is attacking, and then the it kind of lulls after that, and you're like, what are they going to end on? Because if they end it now, it's going to be a really bad movie. And then you realize that David has stolen away on the ship. Because remember, you had two synthetics, Walter and David. And you think Walter survived because he's the more advanced one. He's the more capable one. When Walter finds out what David's up to, he tries to kill him. And they get into a fight. You don't really know where the fight leads, but you assume that Walter's the one that's alive based on what happened in the fight. And then he puts the crew of the Covenant in their little sleeping pods to go to the original planet that they were going to go to colonize. And the captain, at this point, makes an illusion of something he told Walter, which David, of course, because it's David, not Walter, doesn't understand. And she's stuck in the pod, and she realizes, this is David. This isn't Walter. He's talking like Walter, but he's not Walter. And he takes out of his mouth 2 eggs with face huggers in them, little tiny baby face huggers, puts them next to these human embryos that they are going to cultivate when they get to the colonization planet. And that's where the movie ends. And you're like, oh my god. The ending is just, because like, they have to make another one, and what's going to happen? If the Xenomorph's going to be birthed in that little thing and eat all the baby embryos, that would be nasty and sick, but anyway. Let me know what you thought about this movie. If you're here, you probably already saw the movie, because this is the spoiler part, and if you've been here and you've been listening to me, I'm sorry, because I just spoiled all the movie for you, but I told you it was the spoiler part, and I told you to leave. But if you've seen the movie, comment below. Let me know what you thought. Like, comment, subscribe. I really want to get more subscribers. We finally got to 30, which had been a milestone I wanted to reach for a while, but I really want to get to that coveted 100. So share this channel. I'm going to probably do more edited things down the road. I may even whittle down these reviews and make edited versions of them with like little title cards of what am I talking about at what specific moment, just to improve. I want to improve this channel. So if you have any tips on how I can improve the channel, let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of my review. Let me know what you thought about the movie. Like, comment, subscribe. Like I've already said before, this is Movie Critic Rob with the Movie Channel. And as always, now I'm signing off.